Warning: the podcast you are about to listen to discusses films on the basis of the craft of screenwriting. It contains spoilers. Films discussed may also contain offensive content.
In this episode, we will be discussing Ernest Saves Christmas, released in 1988, and Klaus, released in 2019.
Hey, and welcome. Jay and Dave, Winter Film School Podcast, episode...
Holiday Christmas Special.
And also 9.
Assumedly, this is not being uploaded on Christmas, but who's to say that Christmas can't be celebrated in, I'm assuming, March.
If our target, of bi-weekly goes forward every 2 weeks, it could be March-ish.
March-ish, if not early April.
This is also the first episode that we're recording after we have gone live and told the world about our podcast.
Once again, if you're listening this far in, 9 episodes in, thank you so much for listening. And happy holidays, I guess, right? Kind of have to stay on point. It is December after all.
That's right. A merry... this isn't... well, I guess it is belated. If you're hearing it now in March, then happy belated Christmas.
Or if you're Filipino like me, happy start of setting up for Christmas.
When is Filipino Christmas?
Like, here's the thing. My guys are crazy about the holidays. So we actually start setting up in like the summer. Like, start putting on like decorations and all that. There's like the pre-gaming going on. Right now in like the springtime, it's like the post-Christmas recovery plus like pre-Christmas like buying of stuff.
Wow, that's extreme. I was thinking all of a sudden when you said that you had like a different like Chinese New Year kind of thing.
No, it's not even that. It's literally like it's a very like cultural joke in that like we just get really early on Christmas. Like my family here, like we're like no, obviously we're not setting up the decorations for Halloween, but like yeah, back where I come from, there's a lot of holiday specials going on, a lot of Christmas gatherings and stuff like that, even well before even fall.
I always think that like November is too early to start seeing the decorations, but that's pretty intense to start in summer. Everyone can be excited, about what they want to be excited about.
But of course now, all I'm considering now is just like it's a smaller party, just me and my family up here, so it's just gonna be a dinner, I suppose. But yeah, we got the tree up. That was fun.
I have not bought a tree. I tend not to decorate for myself. When I go up to visit my parents, they always have a tree. But I'm definitely looking forward to Christmas with my family and my sister and brother-in-law and my 2 little nieces. Lots of good food and celebrating the birth of the Savior.
Here's actually an interesting fun fact that I do know about the Nativity. So VeggieTales, right?
Yep.
So they have their Christmas special, right? Where they have like, the 3 kings walking across. There's a Joel Drummer Boy. It's actually the Christmas special is a bunch of short stories, I think, about like a bunch of the stories relating to the birth of Jesus. But interestingly enough, part of the rules regarding VeggieTales is they couldn't include a vegetable Jesus in any of their content.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
So, during the episode of like the Nativity, they couldn't even show a baby vegetable version of Jesus. Yeah,
so he just wasn't in it.
He wasn't in it. Like obviously they kind of like implied it. They just kind of had the camera just like underneath the manger, I believe, right? And just like a glowing light shooting upwards, which is cool. The funny thing is there is a VeggieTales version of Jesus that I guess slipped past like I guess some form of like censorship or HR or something. But you can buy a toy baby carrot Jesus as part of a VeggieTales Christmas nativity set.
Wow, that's epic. I was gonna say like how can you decide which vegetable gets to be Jesus? That's kind of like what would put one vegetable above another to get that level.
I don't think it was like the carrot is the holiest of vegetables. It's only because like carrot is baby. It's a baby carrot. I think they went with the pun.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure.
No, but like, you could buy it. Like I've seen it on eBay, but I because the story behind it and the fact that it's the only like depiction of Jesus in vegetable form, it like goes for like a couple hundred actually.
It's a black market deal, kind of like the Star Wars Christmas special.
I mean, kinda like that. If you had the Star Wars Christmas special playing while you're setting up the vegetable nativity, that would be amazing.
Wow, epic. I was going to ask you. It was also recently your birthday. It's
Yes.
again with us being here in December. How have you dealt with the fact of always having your birthday in the same month as Christmas? That must always be a little bit of tension.
I mean, here's the thing, not really, because first of all, I don't actually treat my birthday as like that big of a thing. I honestly think it's more of a celebration of my mom, who kind of like birthed me. But that being said, I do get 2 sets of presents every single year in that month, which is fun. I always tell my mom like don't like I kind of just tell her like if you want to get me something small on my birthday, that's fine, and then do something else for my Christmas, like okay. But yeah, no, I'm not really like a very material person when it comes to buying me stuff.
And like having parties, do you always still have a like a party get together?
Like here's the other thing, like I don't even do that big of a party as well. Like the thing I did with my friends is we went out just to get some ramen at a ramen place that was just having a promotion. There's a new ramen place that opened up close by to me that gave free upsizing of their ramen bowls. So I just got an extra large for the same cost as like a medium, and it was fantastic.
Sometimes, yeah, it's those little perks that are nice to go get. I try to hit Starbucks up on my birthday. That's nice to get, the mega venti latte thing.
Yeah, because that's definitely what I love doing on my birthday as well. It's just like going around and seeing how much free stuff I can get.
Well, it's good to be humble. You're a humble guy, and so it's important.
I mean, it's that, and also I like to save money. You can't really splurge when you're living in Vancouver, but most of the gifts I did get were just chocolates because I just told my friends that I loved Kit Kat, so I got just a whole bunch of Kit Kat, and then a couple trading cards from a Disney trading card set that I'm slowly getting into. The biggest thing I did get was just straight up American currency from my American relatives. Shout out to anybody living in America right now. If you have friends living in Canada, you give them about $20. That's like a week's worth of labor. The currency value is in crazy.
That's good. That's good advice. Get some of that income over here. We need it. We've got quite the deficit going.
Actually, that's another thing about Christmas. Actually, during around the holidays, when the dollar value of Canada and America was kind of equivalent, my family would actually usually go down to the States actually to just buy up all of our Christmas and Boxing Day gifts. It was just so much better.
Right.
I remember just buying TVs to just send over to people. They don't want us anymore, apparently.
Do you have any gifts that you are especially excited to give away this year? I always like asking it that way. Like, are you excited to give anything this year?
Because I got my job at Indigo, I've just been buying a lot of like books at like a really, really cheap cost to give away to people, which is different to me because I wouldn't buy books for myself. Actually, I've done it a little bit, but I wouldn't splurge that much. But I've got a whole bunch of stuff like lined up for different friends. My family, I'm getting actually Indigo sells like winter gear as well, so I got my mom a couple gloves and stuff like that. Got my dad a board game. I'm still figuring out what I want to get to my sisters because I think they got everything already. Yeah, I need to subtly ask them like what manga they don't have yet because we do have a manga section. And it would be like really bad for me to be like, oh, here's issue number 7 of the manga you're reading. Like, well, actually, I'm not into like Jujutsu Kaisen. It's like
Yeah, you got to know, what they're.
So I'm half tempted just to buy them a gift card and then let them do it.
Yeah, that always works.
How about you? Since you're living kind of separate, do you have to factor in shipping costs as well?
Well, I will be visiting like my immediate family, so that I will be able to bring with me. And I've kind of gone the housewares kind of route, things that are functional for the home, things that maybe you wouldn't buy for yourself but are really handy to have. And I find that those are sometimes nice gifts. Like I got my mom a vegetable washing strainer that extends across your sink. So it can rest on the counter with a little sieve tray for the vegetables to sit on. And then you can just have that sitting over your sink while the water comes down on it. It's pretty handy.
At home, like, would you buy, like, wallpaper to somebody?
I have never considered buying wallpaper for someone.
Because, like, my first thought was, like, you're one of the very, very few people who does their Christmas shopping at, like, a Home Depot.
Well, no, what I bought wasn't at a Home Depot, but there would be functional things at Home Depot too. And I mean, you could buy someone wallpaper, but I mean, they might think, "Oh, you don't like my walls? What's wrong with my walls?"
No, actually, the wallpaper is actually just in replacement of wrapping paper. We just ran out.
Oh, like, well, there's that. Probably is quite a bit more expensive than wrapping paper, but I mean,
I mean, like, consider this, right? Like, people save wrapping paper anyways, so you might as well wrap your gifts in wallpaper so they can actually use the wrapping paper for something else.
yeah, but then like you want to tear open the gift. Like you have to be able to tear it all apart.
I mean, you could design it for easy opening then, right? A little kind of like zipper, like a pull tab.
Yeah, you could, and then it would be a dual gift. You should try it sometime.
I feel like there's a Shark Tank pitch in there somewhere of like the gift that's also encompassing a gift. But holiday movies, that's what we're here to discuss then. You got any favorites that you like watching Christmas? Like I know a lot of people have like a tradition of like, oh, we're gonna put on like Home Alone or How the Grinch Stole Christmas in the lead up to Christmas, something like that.
I'm a big Home Alone fan. I remember seeing that in theaters when it first came out. It's I don't watch it every Christmas, but it's definitely one of those like feel good Christmas movies for me. I often will watch Christmas Vacation. Got a lot of laughs. Chevy Chase. Those are probably the two most common. What about you?
I also kind of go with the Christmas comedy route as well. Like Home Alone is my go-to as well. But I love the animated ones, obviously. Like the it's Christmas Charlie Brown special. I usually watch that myself. And I'm actually really happy that the music gets played on the radio all the time. And then I do also watch How the Grinch Stole Christmas as well. Which,
oh yeah, that one definitely. Yeah.
funnily enough, like Christmas time, there's a lot of like really like the movie soundtracks from these Christmas movies that do get played on the radio, which is honestly kind of fun because it's the only times I hear like film scores being played on like public radio. Yeah, because I know for certain that the Home Alone like the da 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 like that gets played like on my radio as well, and like the Charlie Brown score, the piano one. Even yeah, of course like the How the Grinch Stole Christmas song. You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. That also gets right.
Yeah, and you know what? I probably don't even realize that those are like soundtrack songs more so than just standalone songs, because they're just so common.
I don't know. I figure right if you're a film composer, you should try scoring a Christmas movie like that, so you can get like I don't know, Tower Records golden labels or something like that. You could win a Grammy, I suppose. Actually, do film composers get Grammys? I actually don't know.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure there's always a best score. There's always a best score.
Because I figured, right? Because we had the Canadian. There's the Canadian Music Awards coming up. That's going to be hosted by Michael Bublé. I don't know if it happened yet or if it's going to be happening soon. I'm actually going to look this up right now. Grammy Film Score Award. Oh yeah, there's one. It's gonna be the Grammy Award for Best Score Soundtrack for Visual Medium. Last year, who won it last year? Oh, Oppenheimer won. They went up against Black Panther, Barbie, and The Fabelmans. Oh, they beat out John Williams. Oh well.
Well, there's like that very exclusive club of composers that they've each probably won multiple times. They probably have some good battles of who's got the best awards room in their houses.
I figured, right? If one of those guys do end up losing, they're fine giving a trophy off to the new guys. John Williams doesn't need another trophy.
Now I'm curious who actually would have the most out of the big, like Howard Shore and all the big names.
Steven Spielberg's probably got a couple.
I mean, just the composers. No.
Oh, composers.
John Williams, Howard Shore. I'm forgetting the other ones, but there's like at least 2 or 3 more like big names.
Hans Zimmerman, that's another one. Well, I guess in the bottom.
We should have done more research. Why didn't we, plan out exactly everything we were going to say?
I didn't realize composers going to be a big topic here.
Now the people that are listening are going to have to Google it, the same as us after this.
100%.
It saved everybody all that time. We're sorry.
I'll tell you what, a couple episodes down the line, we'll have a film composers only film review where we don't watch the movie, we just listen to it without visuals. We just listen to it and then see if it's better that way.
And then what happens if we decide it's better? Then what? We just listen to movies after that?
I mean, potentially. What's the difference between an audiobook and a film script? You just read it off.
Yeah, I guess. But you can't see the action lines.
Oh, no, that's fair enough.
There would be a gap.
You know, there's somebody should experiment with that. Honestly, it probably is much more cheaper to film a movie without any visuals, anyways.
Budgets would go down. I think that's safe to say.
Would you listen to a Christmas movie? I figure a lot of the beats are pretty similar.
I mean, if I was, locked up somewhere and they told me I had to listen to a Christmas movie, I guess I don't know if I would do it by choice.
The Hallmark Christmas movies you could listen to, because really they're just like audio drama plays. Like obviously you could listen to Home Alone as a Christmas movie as an audiobook, because you'd be missing all the practical humor.
Yeah. Well, you'd hear a lot of grunts and groans and screams.
Oh, 100%. Really, here's another funny story from my life. I actually was watching Home Alone on a road trip to America when the dollar value was kind of similar, right? And we had those portable TVs in our car. And we get to the scene, right, where Kevin McAllister is watching the black and white mafia movie.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
Keep the change, you filthy animal. So we were getting up to that scene, and we're pulling into a gas station with the windows down, right? And even then, when we were that young, we kind of knew about the news about like America, like a balloon can go off, and the people will go like, "Oh my God, it's a full on mass shooting." We figured that when we get to that part, we'd have to silence the radio or like the TV, or we're gonna make this Chevron gas station just go into complete panic. Problem is the voice control settings is on the front dashboard because the TVs are connected to the car. So literally me and my sisters like jumped over like the middle steering column just to get to the radio, and like just freaked out my mom.
Like right before it was happening?
Right before it was happening. Because like we were literally like up to that point where like we're laughing.
You don't want to start a firefight in this gas station.
Exactly. So like, yeah, we turned it down. It was great. Problem is, I think once we got to a shopping mall, we were just waiting for our mom. We get to the bit where it's just Kevin McAllister having a great time, like beating up Harry and Marv. I think we got like a couple like weird looks from people walking past of like, why is there screaming coming into this car? It sounds like people are dying.
And bludgeonings happening.
Yeah, but yeah, you win some, you lose some. We didn't start a newsworthy headline when we went down to the States. That was good.
That's hilarious. That's great.
I think it would have been a different story if it was Die Hard we were watching, but...
And actually, that's exactly what I was going to say is that's the other one that I would say is on my list is Die Hard for Christmas movies. I definitely consider it a Christmas movie.
Yeah, I was about to ask, like, do you see it as a Christmas movie? Because, like, again, like, the setting is just Christmas, but really boiled down.
I mean, it wasn't intended as a Christmas movie, but it has become one, and therefore I consider it one. I mean, I think some of that is subjective. What is a Christmas movie? But if it has some Christmas elements and you enjoy it at Christmas, it's a Christmas movie.
Yeah, like I personally see Christmas as a setting as opposed to a genre. It's just like all these people have the same setting. I feel like the best kind of Christmas movies are the ones you can watch at any point in the year and still have a great time. Nightmare Before Christmas, I watch both on Halloween and Christmas, as well as days that aren't even those holidays. Elf as well is also a movie I just kind of watch for fun.
Yeah.
But like Hallmark Christmas movies aren't something I'd really watch. And then even like Christmas special on TV, I sometimes don't like watching when it's not Christmas.
Yeah, definitely a sign of a better movie in general is if you watch it more often.
I feel like if the plot is just Christmas, it's a little bit weaker than if the plot was like something more conventional that you just do for any movie.
Yeah, I think in Die Hard there's even that one scene where they play a Christmas carol. I think it might be Santa Claus is coming to town when all the cops come to the building. I think there's some point anyway where they overlay a Christmas carol over some mass action happening outside the building.
You know, I feel like there was definitely a missed opportunity in Die Hard for a chase scene to the Christmas Carol Run Run Rudolph.
Yeah. Although they didn't want it to be, I guess, too silly. They had to ride that line.
Actually, now that I think about it, horror Christmas movies. You like those?
Well, again, I'm not the hugest horror guy. I like a few certain ones that I like, but so I wouldn't actually say I know too many. I mean, I think Gremlins is the one.
Is Gremlins Christmas?
Gremlins is happens at Christmas, yeah.
What? I didn't realize that.
There was the one story that she tells, the teen girl protagonist tells the main protagonist that her dad, I think, dressed up as Santa one year and was going to come down the chimney and then got stuck and died in the chimney.
Oh,
it was very dark, but it fit with the horror.
Honestly, been a while since I've seen Gremlins. Here's the thing, I really want to see, like, I kind of want to do for 1 year just a Christmas movie marathon touching on every single genre of film. So yeah, I definitely want to watch a horror Christmas, doing my normal thing of hiding behind a couch. But like also a Christmas Western. I can't think of any Christmas Westerns coming to my mind right now. Ignoring the Star Wars Christmas special, I don't think I know any Christmas sci-fis.
Interesting. That would be an interesting marathon.
Because like currently, I know there's a lot of Christmas comedies and just a lot of Christmas actions, like Big Red, I think, the one Dwayne Johnson is coming out right now. I kind of want to, as a scriptwriter, I want to try writing just a unconventional Christmas movie, I think. Maybe fantasy. Actually, fantasy's a good one. I don't think I come up with any, I guess, like, non-horror fantasy Christmas movies yet.
The fantasy genre would be a bit harder to do a Christmas movie because Christmas is grounded in Earth's history. So fantasy is kind of separate from that.
You reckon?
You'd have to come up with a way to explain it, or like really be like a parallel. It could be done, but
I figured it was going to be the easiest one to do because you got like Santa, which is already like a very like mythological fantasy being.
I mean, you could transport Santa into other realms. You could do that.
You know, actually, we gotta go touch in with Selma for this one because I feel like there must be D&D campaigns of like the holiday Christmas special where like Santa Claus is either the final boss and or a comedic side character you bring along for the adventure.
Well, I didn't know you could bring Santa into D&D.
I feel like you could do anything with D&D. I don't think Santa's off the table.
You never know. That Santa could be in the theme. Like even Santa, sort of, if you go back, has a historical basis in Earth's history. Saint Nicholas, and what he did. So it would be tough, but you could probably figure out a way to do it.
Also, final historical fact before we get into our movie review. Did you hear the recent news that we actually found Saint Nick's grave?
I did not hear that.
No, apparently, so Saint Nicholas, as you know, real person. They buried him when he died, obviously, like back in like the 15th, 16th century or whatever. They kind of lost him. They lost him for a bit, but then they decided to look under the church where he was buried for some archaeological like digs or something like that, and they found his grave.
Wow.
I just read the headline. I don't know what they're doing with his body. I don't know if they're like, scanning it to be like, is he really Santa Claus? But no, we found him. I'm assuming he'll be traveling local malls to get kids their wishes.
Bring out his glass encased corpse.
Yeah.
And go on tour.
Yeah, go on tour.
That would be quite the Christmas tour. It would also be a little dark, yeah. But kids may or may not be allowed in to that. I'm thinking.
You just market it. Just put a hat on him. It was great.
sit on the lap.
The lap of the decomposed body of Saint Nick.
More trauma than it's gonna solve. But that does bring us to our movies that we watch, because Klaus, which you gave me to watch, is kind of like a Santa origin story.
Yeah, and the same with Ernest is Christmas was the transferring of power to, I guess, the mythology of how a new Santa is birthed.
Yeah, so I don't think that Klaus was trying to be accurate to St. Nicholas history. I think it was a kind of a separate, imagined origin, but it was pretty cool. Klaus
to me is part of that genre of Christmas movies where I feel that you can watch it at any point in the year. It is definitely more than a Santa origin story. It's like it's a humbling story, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely.
Zen thinks he's all of like a bag of chips and all that. Kind of gets a hit of reality, and then kind of realizes he wants to be more in touch with the human side of people, I suppose.
Totally. It's a great example of the protagonist's journey, the character arc, because it wasn't just how, the story of how, Santa Claus might have come about in some, like, fabricating a way that you can imagine how all the elements come into play. But it was something that, as we know as screenwriters, you have to tell a story of the protagonist, and that has to be your main element that goes through the whole movie. And they did a good job with that character, Jesper. He starts off very self-oriented. He's very coddled and kind of spoiled in his rich family's mansion. Doesn't really have any responsibilities, and his dad tells him he has to get a job in the most remote region, and that is going to be a problem for him. So great setup for a protagonist's journey.
You know, as scriptwriters, we know that we have to like really throw our characters into the deep end, and what better deep end to throw a rich, pampered guy into than, I don't know, Podunk town in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, with a very antagonistic group of inhabitants that have a long-standing feud that is unresolved, which happens to be another issue that he ends up being able to have an impact on. But yeah, I really liked it. It was so creative and like perfect example of how animation is suited towards a certain story, or like the way you write a script with animation in mind. And the writer was the director. Like the whole concept was kind of one guy, and his vision was able to be captured, I think, quite well.
Writer directed for animation usually generate really beautiful stories where they really tie together the animation visuals as well as the narrative in like a really perfect sense. Like you get amazing like very goofy like comedy scenes as well out of it, like a lot of the, I guess, the actiony scenes where you're just like, you know, chasing through the village and stuff like that. The montage with Santa Claus, like he definitely had input in there, but being able to tie stuff like color as well, like from moments where there's snow at nighttime, those dark visuals of the town combined with the sunset later on. Like I love it when both live action movies do it and also animated movies especially, because it really shows that films sometimes are more than art. It's able to use its art a lot to help tell its true story.
Totally. I just looked up his name. It's Sergio Pablos, who's the writer and the director. I noticed too that it's really dense and rich animation. I would say more so than others, and exaggerated and elaborate backgrounds. Did you ever watch Ren and Stimpy?
I briefly like
The original. I think there might have been another one, but
I've watched a couple episodes. I am familiar with the characters.
I was just going to say, it reminded me some of the backgrounds that they used. This is obviously much better at CGI, and it was just really dynamic, and like there was always like a rhythm and like the physics or the motion was very dynamic and rhythmic, and there was always like something happened and then that would cause something else to happen, and it all happened very smoothly and yet still fast paced for kind of an impact or a punch that they gave you. Like when he's walking to the outhouse in his rickety dwelling that they gave him there, and it's on a raised platform, and the outhouse is on a raised platform, there's planks in between the two, and it's windy and cold, and the whole thing is swaying very elaborately and like in an unrealistic way, but it's just a lot of fun to see him have to navigate that. And then I think his towel blows away in the wind.
I feel like at this point, I feel like every single Christmas movie has to have a little bit of that physical comedy in it for it just to be just peak Christmas movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of good visual gags, like the girl who's like stabbing the kids that are stabbing the snowman with carrots, and then there's that one girl who just stares at him while she's doing it. They use that as kind of a gag that just shows how the state of this town, and then they kind of turn it around at the end where after they've come around, she's placing the carrot the regular way for the nose.
Do you like the kid character, by the way? I always find that that's the more popular of the two. It's like Santa Claus and then also the tiny girl.
The Norwegians, those colorful Norwegians or whatever race they were. Do you know if they like made up a language for that group, or was it a real language?
You know what? I actually don't know. I figured if I answered now without knowing, I'm going to offend some Scandinavian culture by saying like, oh, they talked weird, so obviously it has to be a made up language. You know what? This is just going to be another thing our audience will have to Google along with the composers.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry, we've completely failed at giving the information that you're seeking. But anyway, yeah, I thought she was super cute. That was a kind of one of those heart characters for the show. It had some real heart to it, and just really well animated. Although I did kind of feel sorry for her because, you know, her arm length to head size ratio made it impossible for her to like touch her own eyes, like if she's crying or whatever.
I mean, in terms of like the pure innocence character I guess that trope character in any Christmas movie, I really liked her. Just because like she was just such a kid. I liked it when kids in cartoons are just written to be just straight up toddlers.
Yeah. Although what was also interesting is they didn't play it that this was a completely understandable group, because there's the one scene where he talks to her and she fully understands him, and then she talks back in her own language and he understands her, and it came off kind of funny because you're not expecting that. But I don't know if that was intentionally a joke or if it was meant to show that, they had learned at some point that we didn't see each other's language.
I figured that it was an off scene type of like montage. He's learning the language as well to get more involved in the culture. Just, yeah.
Maybe I missed that.
Do you think there was any areas where Klaus could have been improved on?
Well, the only one that actually stood out to me was that Klaus's characterization was a bit weak in the first, at least half of the movie. And so considering it was named Klaus, you kind of expected a bit more, and maybe they played him up to be kind of really foreboding at the beginning, and then when you realize he's actually quite friendly, then it kind of softens out, and there's not much to go on for his character. They of course add in like his backstory and with his wife and how they wanted to have kids, and that didn't happen, and then eventually that came, but it felt a bit weak early on, but it didn't detract in any major way for me.
Yeah, because like I do kind of agree that he does start out just being like recluse, like obviously don't is one personality type is be scared of him, and then it's that character journey of actually going off to talk to him, and then figuring out who he really is. Which honestly, it's kind of like that one story of like those Christmas movies where you do end up getting to meet the old cranky man that everyone talks about in the neighborhood but nobody talks to, like in Home Alone.
Yeah, and I mean, he definitely plays an important role in the protagonist's journey, because it's Klaus that shows Jesper kind of the meaning of Christmas. He's the one who gives the gift to the child and then shows Jesper the effect of that gift being given. And so that's really where Jesper first gets exposed to, oh, this is what it means to give a gift, to give of yourself to someone else for their enjoyment. And that was one of the core points to Jesper's journey. And then it kind of came to full conclusion when at the end, when they have the townsfolk come to destroy all the gifts because they don't want their feud to end. They need their feud. They want to destroy all the gifts because they see the impact that gift giving is causing. And so because the town starts to, the kids get better or whatever, and the town starts to get cleaned up, but they want to destroy all that, so they come to destroy his big delivery of gifts. And then there's the big adventurous sleigh ride down the mountain, which Jesper comes in at the last moment and sort of does the big heroic act of saving. He says, or then it's revealed that those are all just wooden, or just pieces of wood, not the real toys, because Klaus was predicting that that's what would happen. So they were decoys. And then Jesper says, oh, so it was all for nothing. And then Klaus gives him his hat and back and says, oh, I wouldn't say that, which was a cool moment, because that was saying, no, look at what how it changed you and what it showed that you did, and that's not nothing. So I thought that was really well constructed.
It when you really boil it down, it's a very cartoony movie. There's a lot of fun in it. The characters are extremely expressive. There's a lot of exaggeration going on, but it's still that same heartwarming feel you get from watching like holiday movies. Yeah, it's like the goodness of the human spirit, and that cold, mean, selfish people can also change, which I think is something that's pretty good going into the new year. Talk about it in December.
It reminds that topic always reminds of the gift that started it all. That God gave His Son to us, and that's a gift that we couldn't deserve or ask for, but He gave, and that is an act of giving that then rolls down to us. We see it, we want to respond in kind, and then that can continue.
100%. What do you think you rate it?
I might give it a 4.75. I really liked it.
I think that's the highest score you've given so far.
I think so.
Hey, yeah. There you go. Big recommendation for Klaus from Jason here.
I'm really curious what you thought of Ernest Saves Christmas.
Well, I'll tell you what, it probably won't come as a surprise to you. Probably was not as good as Klaus, but
Not a surprise.
not a surprise.
Let me preface this choice a little bit for people. When we decided that we were going to do a Christmas themed exchange, all of the Christmas movies that I suggested, Dave had already seen, and so that I worked down the list and finally got to one that he hadn't seen, and it was Ernest Saves Christmas. Which I do remember thoroughly enjoying as, I would say, a teen, maybe preteen. Admittedly, not the highest caliber Christmas movie out there.
I'll start by saying that this was a functionally good comedy. There was a lot of jokes that actually did get me to chuckle quite a bit, right? We had ourselves a very ridiculous protagonist there who was always bumbling around, but he's constantly always kind of moving the story forward. He's the one kind of... I don't think he was necessarily making a lot of decisions, but he was helping both the characters of Santa Claus and I think Harmony, and just kind of through his both actions and like inadvertent results of those things, he gets things moving. I will say it is a little bit of a messy plot. I think I counted about 5 different characters we're kind of following storylines of. Ernest, we had Harmony, we had Santa Claus, we had the Santa Claus replacement dude who was like I'm Jim Henson because he was a very puppety guy. And then the baggage handler reindeer guys. And we're kind of just bouncing around through all 5 of those plots.
And they were at times, combined, but they did separate out at times.
Yeah, like I guess if I had to like kind of use TV terms, our purely comedic C plot of the baggage handlers kind of just did pop in and out. Kind of just there's one time where Ernest says like, "What are we gonna do? Talk about reindeer or something like that?" And then we immediately cut to the reindeer guys. There was a couple lead-ins like that. It was cool. But yeah, comedy wise, it was really really good. They had a lot of times where there was something that was set up like the reindeer handlers, and that actually did play on later on by the later half of the story. We got to see the payoff of. Not only the baggage handlers misreading who's picking up these things, which is like the elves, as well as the reindeers actually taking off. Ernest getting the names of the reindeer wrong, which is kind of really funny. But yeah, like there's a lot of really good. I like using the word Chekhov's guns when it comes to both comedy and setup as well. But there's a lot of good Chekhov's guns.
I did watch it again, like in the lead up to this, so I'd have more context on it because it had been a long time since I'd seen it, but it did a few times make me think, this is kind of a forerunner of Dumb and Dumber a little bit.
Yeah, and here's my thing. I actually didn't really like. I'm not a big fan of just like stupid idiot comedy. I like to use the word sophisticated in terms of like. I can do Minions a little bit more than Dumb and Dumber. But I'm kind of happy that I didn't really find Ernest that annoying. I think he was, in lack of a better term, earnest in terms of just how much he genuinely liked to help out people.
Yeah, and that is his character. Like he is trying to be that. Like he really wants to help people. And he's super like excited and excitable, and he has all these personas that he takes on, and they are repeat personas. Like he uses the same ones in other movies because they're his shtick.
And I guess I have to briefly talk about that because I was able to pick up there were a couple in-jokes that I probably did not get because I did not watch the first movie in this series. And knowing that you are the one who's more knowledgeable in Ernest, did this start off as a TV series? Or did it only start off as a movie series?
The first one that I'm aware of is a movie,
yeah.
But I can't say for sure. It's possible that there were some television content that then they made into a movie. Or the first one was Ernest Goes to Camp was the first movie. That's where I got exposed to it. I'm not sure. Another thing that we might have to Google.
Because like I really picked up on like the rapid cutting between multiple things, and like a lot of the comedy Ernest does was actually to the camera. Like obviously he's talking to somebody else, but he is in our visual film language, he is just looking straight in the camera and kind of talking to the audience to make funny faces. There was times where it kind of felt like an MTV type show, just for the handheld nature of the camera. I still found it at least kind of funny.
Any jokes that stood out in your memory?
You know what? I really liked anytime Ernest changed costume. It was just full-on Looney Tunes energy with that.
Oh, yeah.
I love the one where he dressed up as like the governor, and Harmony was the governor's daughter.
Oh, yeah.
And they both changed up the way they spoke with that. That was brilliant. I loved Snake snake handler, supplier of Hollywood, Ernest as well. That was brilliant. And then just the fact that they actually brought in real snakes to just have them in there. Yeah, you'll always get me with Looney Tunes humor. If anything has like that straight up just this classic like guy runs off cliff, realizes he's off cliff, then falls. I'm all over that.
Yeah, there were good gigs like when they were at the jail, and then all of a sudden when Santa Claus gets the whole jail cell of hardened criminals to be singing, it was kind of a quick cut, and he's got them singing.
It's really is no surprise that my favorite live action movies are comedies and action, because there's a lot of overlap between the two with animation. But actually, Santa Claus in this movie, I was genuinely really surprised that he was that big of a character, because I have the bias of watching a whole bunch of other Christmas movies, and Santa Claus usually was like kind of almost a cameo character in a lot of circumstances. But he was straight up to Santa Claus, like just kind of walking about. It was kind of his story of like trying to find his replacement. And like you see, I think you do see a little bit of character development in Santa Claus, but mostly in Harmony, which I will say was, I'm not gonna lie, it was a little bit weak, because I just kind of don't like moments where it's like, oh, you see one instance of like, kids are questioning about Christmas and they're not believing in the Christmas spirit, and now Harmony's like, oh, well, actually, it is a real thing. I'm gonna change my entire way. Again, it's I guess it's one of the weaknesses of having that many acts jump in between the two, that you don't have a lot of time to develop those characters. I don't think they were aiming for that. I don't think it was a story of the fun of Ernest, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Ernest movies are. And then, of course, you still have to try to have some sort of journey or theme that happens along the way. So, I mean, I would say you've got valid criticism on that. Like, there should be something that's still, even if you've got a total slapstick, ridiculous comedy movie, you always do still have a protagonist, and you always do have context that's happening in that you can have a journey or a theme that comes out of that. So it could have been better.
And I guess, yeah, it definitely, I just generally think it was the weakest part of this film to have like that many acts jump in between two. I mean, that many characters you're following. I honestly wanted to keep going back to Ernest and just kind of seeing what hijinks he's getting up to next. When it jumped to the really kind of like emotionally touching Santa Claus moments where he's actually like trying to do something meaningful, I think. And then also Harmony, who's trying to go on that genuine character journey. I always found it was kind of really so serious when you compare it to Ernest. I was like, this is not funny anymore. I want to go back to the fun times where Ernest is like, making the weird funny faces against glass. I don't know. I don't know, because again, I haven't watched
Do you feel like it wasn't done well, like those meaningful moments, or that even if it was done well, you just didn't like vibe? That wasn't your vibe for this movie.
I mean, here's my thing, right? Because How the Grinch Stole Christmas also kind of did the same thing. We had a very like prominent comedic character in the Grinch, right? But you still had like Cindy May and also like the kind of like different citizens of Whoville that we do kind of put the camera on for a little bit. And like those moments where we are with the Who's, it's always very engaging. The thing with the Who's is they're always talking in reference back to our comedic character being the Grinch. And like it's their reactions to him, it's their exaggerations, it's their perspectives of the Grinch that kind of keep us both in terms with, in touch with our main, I guess, sizzle of the show, as well as the comedy as well. Like, I love the bit where Santa Claus is making the prisoners sing. I love the bit where Harmony is pulling out random junk from the Santa sack, and it's all these random objects. They weren't really connected back to Ernest in any way, so they were just kind of like offshoot jokes, right? Where I kind of like my comedies to be very more interlinked together with, I guess, our main source of comedy.
Yeah, and I think they probably, because the in jokes or the repeat jokes are so core to who Ernest is, they probably depend on those too much in and of themselves, when they really should allow for a bit more like just character development of Ernest in the different movies. That would be a knock on Ernest movies, is that they do have a repetitive nature, but they're still fun to see how he does his thing in different storylines and environments, but it is kind of repetitive.
And I will say, right, repetitive is not a huge diss when you use it in the terms of comedy, because repeat jokes are very, very funny.
Yeah, they can be very funny. Yeah.
Because it's the self-referential of it. It's just like setting it up, getting the audience into it, and then bringing it up later. It's like double pleasure for them because like not only laughing again, but like you know the joke you're in. Comedy shows do it a lot when they bring up stuff from past bits. And the thing is, there are a lot of repeat jokes as well, just in the terms of Ernest just kind of doing, what was it, just being, his taxi driver thing, his, you know what I mean? Just for his rambling and just doing that, I genuinely was saying, know what I mean, to a bunch of people after watching that movie. I mean, here's my thing, right? It got me interested in looking up the first movie to watch of Ernest to get those in-jokes, because I need to know who Vern is. I need to know who this man is and how much Ernest has terrorized this poor innocent guy.
Then you should definitely watch Ernest Goes to Camp and maybe one or two of the other early ones. Like, I don't want to spoil it, but there's still going to be some mystery when it comes to Vern. Again,
this is going to be something that our audience will have to not only have to Google, but they'll have to watch to get this in joke. Are we supposed to be Vern? Or is just like the cameraman is like always going to be like a first person perspective type thing?
Yeah, you'll just have to find out.
Okay. But yeah, I have to give this movie solid props for at least being quite enjoyable. I found their practical gags maybe not on the same level as Home Alone, but it's kind of in that same vibe of like wacky hijink. Yeah, I mean, I did end up kind of liking the ending. Here's my one thing with comedy movies: the climax of your comedy movie has to be over the top and off the wall and a visual spectacular as well as humor. And just having Ernest scream as he careens through the sky in a Santa sleigh is definitely high props for it.
Good climax. Yeah. What do you get?
Orally, it was a solid 3. It wasn't that amazing, but it could have been worse. So if you're looking for something else to watch during the Christmas film, I didn't know about it, and I've seen a couple like 80s-esque, not just straight up 80s movies from the Christmas season. I completely missed this one. This might be a pretty cool one to add to the watch list.
All right. Well, I think that probably brings us to the end of this one.
Yeah. And that's guess one in the bag.
Yeah, and wherever you're at, Merry Christmas, whether you are just looking back, at your Christmas 2 months ago, or looking forward to the next one, getting ready if you're in the Philippines.
Yep, Merry Christmas. I'm going to go open my advent calendar now and get all those chocolates.
Awesome. Well, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
This is Jay and Dave signing off, and that's a wrap. Special thanks to Niranj, who made the intro and outro music for this podcast. You can find him on Instagram at his handle @NiranjD. That is @NIRANJD on Instagram.